Hello everyone and welcome to another video from Carl's Tech Shed. Well, after the review I did on that nasty little 64GB USB flash drive in the shape of a digital camera, it got me thinking, and I fished out this old compact digital camera I've had for many years now. I bought this in 2004, just before I went on a trip to France and Belgium, and as you can see, it's obviously seen better days, but unfortunately about a year or two after I bought it, it stopped working. It would only power up via USB to download the pictures from it. It wouldn't power on if you had batteries in it. So it was just completely dead. So I just used it as an SD card reader for a couple of years. I haven't seen this for quite a while. I recently fished it out of a box of spare parts which I was going through the other day, and I thought it'd be an interesting teardown, as this is 2003, maybe 2004 style consumer digital camera. There weren't many models available, and especially not many of these cheaper brands. Most of them would have been Nikon or Kodak or something like that. This one is made by a German company called Jenoptik. It's designed in Germany and then it's manufactured in China. So I'm not expecting the inside to be of the best quality, but compared to a low range digital camera that you'd pick up today, I expect the build quality might be a little bit better, considering when I bought this it cost me about £150, which was about the going price for a cheap digital camera back in 2004. This features a 3.1 megapixel sensor. It's got a small LCD on the back. I think it's about 1.5 or 2 inches, something like that. It's got video recording with audio. It's got manual mode, well, what they laughingly call manual mode. All it allows you to do is adjust the shutter speed and the aperture. It doesn't allow anything else other than that. It's got a very basic macro mode, which is simply by switching this little switch here, which I'm guessing physically moves the lens or refocuses it in some way. I very much doubt if that's going to be electronic. We've got a small speaker down here for audio playback. We've got a battery compartment here which also has an SD card slot inside, and as you can see there, it's produced for Jenoptik Germany and made in China. I haven't actually looked at that website to see if it still exists, but I mean, I seem to remember hearing of Jenoptik a few, maybe only a couple of years ago, so I guess they're still in business. Obviously, there would have been a little rubber flap over this part here, but that's fallen off many years ago. So, yeah, let's open it up and see what's inside it. Okay, well, now that I've taken the electronics out of the plastic housing, you can see here that we've got the LCD screen which is connected to the PCB via a standard flat flex connector. We've got a small 8-pin IC here which is just a dual comparator. We've also got the SD memory card slot which is adjacent to the battery compartment underneath. We've got a small 8-pin connector here which goes through onto a board inside here. This just has some buttons, some tactile switches on the other side, and as you can see, there's no components other than the switches on here. These traces just lead directly up to the connector, where it's then fed into the main PCB for controlling the menu. We've got a small viewfinder here, which, as you can see, it's a bit dusty. I mean, you have to remember this camera's been sitting in my spares box for the best part of 10 years now, so it hasn't been used properly, and it certainly hasn't been cleaned. There's a small transformer up here, which is probably going to be for generating the... it's probably going to be something to do with the flash, which is on the other side, but I'll have a look at that in more detail in a moment. And again, we've just got a small speaker which is just connected onto the board here, and this just goes into the back of the plastic housing here, so you can listen to the video that it records. Now on the other side here, we've got the battery compartment, which I'm going to remove in a moment. We've got the USB port, we've got the TV out here. Needless to say, this is not HDMI or anything fancy like that. This is long before the days of HDMI or any digital form of interface. This is just a standard, coax output, or composite output, sorry. So the signal's probably just going to be generated on one of the processors over here, and it's going to be modulated through here and then just fed out to this small 3.5mm connector. There's no audio output on this connector because it's just a 3-pin connector, so you'll just have 2 ground connectors and the composite video signal. Next to this, we've got a standard mini USB. This is not the micro USB that you find more commonly on mobile phones and modern digital cameras. This is just a standard mini USB, which were quite common back then. Now, as I mentioned about the macro setting on this, you remember the little switch that was on the side of it, which flipped left and right. This is what it was actually controlling. It was just moving the lens ever so slightly, and you might not be able to see this on the video, but I can see this lens every time you move it left or right. It raises and lowers by maybe 1 or 2 millimeters. It's a very small distance, but I suppose this is just enough to get it to focus more clearly on close-up objects and to use the macro feature. Now, the most prominent component that you can see here is this very large capacitor. I'm not sure of the specs on this yet because I'm yet to take this part out, and there's no markings mentioning the capacity or the voltage on this side. But as you can see, it's a very large capacitor. This is obviously for the flash tube, which is up here, and all of this high voltage stuff up here is going to be for the flash. Now on top here, this is a rather nifty little design feature they've got here. This is the menu selector, which selects between whether you're going to be using it as a webcam, a microphone, a video recorder, playback, automatic or manual camera mode. And as you can see, it's just a very small rotary encoder that we've got here. It's just an 8-pin rotary encoder with a 90-degree angle on the connector, which then connects down onto the main PCB. Now, another thing that's interesting about this is that the power switch, which is here, has a very small piece of plastic just over the top of it. But the tactile switch here, which is practically identical for the shutter, if you like, doesn't have this piece of plastic over it. So I'm not really sure what they intended to achieve by doing that. It doesn't really make much sense. Maybe because this is it's still a tactile switch, but it's a slightly different design. Maybe they just felt that it would be more efficient, and it would give it a longer life if they were to put a piece of plastic over it to prevent general wear and tear. But again, why they didn't just put in 2 of these smaller tactile switches, I'm not really sure. They can't really cost that much, but I suppose they must have had their reasons for this. Well, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take this battery compartment out so we can expose the processor, and hopefully we'll see if there's some memory in there as well. Okay, well, now that I've taken the battery compartment off of the PCB, you can see what type of processor we've got here. This is an unusual one. I haven't heard of this one before. This is an iCatch Sun Plus dedicated digital camera processor. The date code on this is the 43rd week of 2003, which ties in with around the time that I bought it, which would have been early 2004. But what's interesting is this small memory IC down here, I can't find any information on this. There's no data sheet, and the part number brings up no results in Google whatsoever. But it's definitely some sort of, it's probably just a RAM chip, maybe 512K or 1 meg. But the date code on this one is the 32nd week of 1999. So no doubt this was going obsolete when this camera was designed. They probably just picked up the cheapest memory IC they could get their hands on, because obviously the performance wouldn't really make a difference whether you had a very fast memory IC or a very slow one. I do recount that when I was using this camera, every time you took a picture, the LED on the back would flash for maybe 2 or 3 seconds while the picture was saved to the SD card. So maybe that has something to do with this. Maybe this is a very slow memory IC. Up here we've got a Samsung 32 megabyte flash IC, and over here we've got an SST 1 megabit ROM chip, which is here for the firmware. This just holds the firmware, which allows the microcontroller to boot up and perform all of its operations. The date code on this, again, is the 44th week of 2003. So all 3 of these main ICs at the top, the memory, the ROM and the processor, all have roughly the same date code, apart from the RAM IC, which is 4 years previous. Now over here we've got the Cmos sensor. When I bought this, I assumed this would have had a CCD sensor rather than a Cmos, but when I've looked at the datasheet for the processor, this is one of the one of the Cmos sensors that it supports. This is actually a Y-Media YM3170 CMOS sensor. It's 3.1 megapixels, which was not too bad. I mean, the picture quality is relatively good. I'll try and upload some pictures onto this video when I'm editing it, and show that the quality for 2004 wasn't that bad. Now down here, as I mentioned, we've got the USB port. Now this processor does actually have a dedicated USB 1.1 controller. And it also has the TV modulator built in, so it actually modulates the analog signal via a digital to analog converter. It's also got the LCD controller built in, it's got the flash controller, and it's got the memory, RAM and ROM controllers all built into this one chip. So this is literally a one-chip solution for a digital camera. With this, you really need just a minimal number of components to get the thing working. Also, in the datasheet, it specifically mentions that it can run simply off of a 27 megahertz crystal, so that can generate all of the clock cycles inside the processor just from a 27 megahertz crystal. Now the battery compartment, which I've just taken off there, has 2 cables here, runs through this very crude sort of ferrite core here, and then down onto the board. I was quite surprised when I lifted up this capacitor to check the rating on it. I found that it was actually manufactured by Rubicon, which is a very high quality capacitor manufacturer. I was quite surprised to find this in such a cheap piece of consumer tech. This is a 330 volt photo flash cap at 80 microfarads. As you can see, if I'll show you this sensor again, you can see it's a relatively large sensor for a 3 megapixel sensor. If you compare that to a modern CMOS sensor or CCD from something like an iPhone or a modern digital camera, it's a much smaller CCD, but the image quality on this wasn't too bad at the time, as I said. And this is quite an unusual package as well. This is like a ceramic package, which I was expecting it to be plastic, to be honest. So I can imagine this probably would have cost a fair amount. Wouldn't have been cheap, put it that way. Now if we flip this over, I've got the LCD here. I've still got it plugged in, but I've just disconnected some of the little metal clips on the back so that I can remove it. Now under here, as I mentioned, we've got that 27 megahertz. We've got that 27 megahertz crystal just in the middle here. We've got a few passives, a few discrete components, but no, all of the major components are on the back, on the other side of the PCB. As you can see here, we've got a series of SMD capacitors. We've got a small, looks like a MOSFET or a power transistor there. We've got a few other power components here. The only criticism I've got of this camera is that the high voltage flash circuit is, in my opinion, not properly isolated from the rest of the board. If I flip this over again, as you can see here, we've got the high voltage flash capacitor just here. And if you look down where the tracks are, it's quite difficult to see on this video, but you can see that these two, although they're very close, so they've got the positive end of the capacitor and the positive terminal to the flash tube as close together as possible. It's actually in my opinion, it's dangerously close to this small resistor down here, which is nothing to do with the flash circuit when I've had a look at it more closely. But also this entire part of the board, in my opinion, isn't really properly isolated from the rest of it. The clearance distance is very small, and I'm not really entirely sure whether they've actually passed any safety standards with this at all. And also, if you flip this over, you can see on the other side here where we've got this high voltage capacitor. These are the leads from the high voltage capacitor just under this transformer here. Let me just get something to point this out. These are, where are we? Yeah, just here. These are the high voltage, this is one of the high voltage contacts, and as you can see, it's very close to the rest of this board. This is just looks like a ground plane for the processor and a few other components, and this is so close, it's within maybe a millimetre of this ground plane, and this is a positive end of the capacitor. So in my opinion, they really need to think about maybe cutting some of this off on the PCB, because although this works, and as I say, I don't think this is the reason that it's failed. I'm still not sure whether that's entirely safe. I mean, giving it credit, that the rest of the body of the camera is actually made of plastic, and there's no metal protruding from it. But even so, you really don't want 330 volts going through a processor or a circuit board which is only designed for 100th of that. So that's the only criticism I'd give of this camera. But apart from that, it's relatively good for, you know, a cheap camera from a few years ago. It's certainly not the worst camera design I've ever seen, and there are some nice features on it. As I said, it's got the TV out, it's got the video recording, it's got the separate audio recording, and it's also got a webcam mode, which I remember trying to use a few years ago, but it was absolutely ridiculous trying to find drivers for it. In the end, I think I just gave up, and I never actually got to use it as a webcam, because unusually the drivers for the webcam weren't actually included on the driver CD, if I remember rightly. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll try and have some more videos up very soon.